The transfer portal has been open for just over a week now, and we're seeing dramatic roster turnover all over the country, including here at Florida State. Now, it's no secret that Mike Norvell and his staff have been very active in the portal these last few years, bringing in huge impact players like Jermaine Johnson, Keon Coleman, Jared Verse, and really too many more other names to list there. I'd expect them to have a very solid portal haul this time around as well, but we've also seen the portal take a few guys off of Florida State's roster too. Some guys we kind of expected, like AJ Duffy and Tyler Keltner, but also a few surprises like Bless Harris and earlier today, two other players announced their intentions to transfer. One being linebacker DJ Lundy, and this one actually surprised me a little bit. Now, I don't believe that he has officially entered the portal just yet, but he announced his intentions to do so on Twitter today. And I gotta say, I really like DJ Lundy, and I hate to think of him leaving Florida State. I will also say that I wonder if this is more so just a threat to post and use social media as a way to leverage more NIL money. We saw defensive end Patrick Payton try this last week. It's to my understanding that Patrick Payton wanted to be paid more money than Jared Verse, and I'm sorry, I love Pat, but he's not a top 10 draft pick like Verse is right now, and absolutely should not be paid anywhere near that kind of money. Payton also postured on Twitter before deleting the post and then went on Instagram Live, basically confirming that it was about money. Now, it sounds like he kind of looked around and realized no one else was going to pay him the kind of money that he was looking for, and seems like for the time being he's decided to stick with Florida State. It's hard to say for sure, and it's still early, but a very similar thing could happen here with DJ Lundy. I really do hope they find a way to retain him because, again, I like him, and the linebacker position going into 2024 is pretty thin right now after losing Kalen DeLoach and Tatum Bethune. But I will say there is a line where it just may not be worth it. Rodney Hill is another guy we saw announce on Twitter that he intends to enter the transfer portal. It's being reported that he wanted $100,000 more than Trey Benson. And again, I don't know what has gotten into these kids, but Rodney Hill was our third/fourth string running back this year. The Battle's End cannot be expected to pay that kind of money to him. I'm sorry. And to that point, it doesn't sound like they are, thankfully. It sounds like Florida State and the Collectives are staying pretty firm in their offers, and I can respect that. You have to establish a boundary at some point. You really do, especially in today's world, or else it'll just never end. You've even seen Farmer and Peyton do this kind of thing on social media going on twice now, and trying to leverage more money. Now I get that the kids want to be paid, and I advocate for that for sure, but within reason. And I also think trying to use social media to leverage that is ridiculous and pretty soft, if I'm being honest. It's not worth keeping anyone, in my opinion, if they're just going to be a locker room issue and if they're going to every offseason go to social media to try to bash you in the name of leveraging more NIL money. You need good players, but you also need good leaders and players that actually want to be at Florida State. You can't be renegotiating and going through this kind of drama every offseason. Just the optics, the dysfunction, it just isn't worth it, especially when you're considering who we're talking about. You just can't let a guy like Rodney Hill walk into your office and hold you hostage for six-figure amounts. Now, that being said, I feel like a good bit of this gets resolved once those guys kind of get brought back down to earth a little bit, so we'll see where it all stands when the dust settles. But on to a bit more positive notes with the portal. Florida State has not one, but two high-profile transfer quarterbacks visiting. Cam Ward, the transfer from Washington State, was at Miami earlier this week and will visit Tallahassee Thursday through Saturday. And then DJU will be coming in for his official visit right after. I think the fact that the Cam Ward visit is still happening right after the Miami visit is a great sign. Florida State may even get the last visit here, but he potentially wants to take one more. Now, I think Miami is pushing for a quarterback ASAP, so they may even just take Will Howard before Cam is even finished with all his visits, which will help Florida State's case. We all know the success this staff has had in the portal, and I feel like they could probably get anyone they wanted if they really pushed hard enough. So we'll see how hard they push for Ward/DJU and see which one of the two quarterbacks they prefer coming out of this weekend. But I definitely think Cam Ward is the number one target here, and getting him to visit right after Miami is a great sign, and Florida State could definitely take advantage of that momentum. Now, worst case, I think DJU is a very close backup option. Not necessarily the thrower that Ward is, but we all know DJ. We know he has a cannon for an arm, and we talked about it in another video a little bit before, but I think DJ could fit very well into Mike's offense, and I think it being timed with Cam Ward coming first and then DJ, I think those are probably the only two options they'll explore, and I think they feel pretty confident that they get one of the two. Now, there's too many guys to list that Florida State is exploring. There's a lot of guys visiting, defensive ends, wide receivers, offensive linemen, and once that list becomes a little more clear, I'll probably do another video about all that. But one more guy I wanted to hit on in this video real quick is Marvin Jones Jr., who has officially entered the transfer portal, and you guys should all know who he is. Shade Tree Jones' son. He was a former five-star recruit for the class of 2022 that Florida State really fought to the last second to land in their class, but he ultimately signed with UGA, and at the time, I really can't say I blame him. I actually thought he was going to enter the portal last cycle, but that, of course, didn't end up happening. But he's finally back on the market, and Florida State has, of course, emerged as a top potential landing spot for him. Now, he hasn't played a ton at Georgia, and he hasn't looked as elite as maybe some of us had hoped, but I still feel like Florida State should and will go after him just for his name, for optics, but also he's a very, very talented kid, and Florida State has shown a propensity to get the most out of their defensive ends and develop them. Jermaine Johnson didn't have great numbers when he transferred either, and he was a first round pick after just 1 year at FSU. Now, Marvin Jones Jr. is supposed to be visiting Tallahassee this weekend, so we'll see what comes out of that visit, and I definitely think that's very interesting to monitor going forward. One of the many to try to monitor going forward. I know it's a little bit chaotic and hard to keep up with. That's exactly why you're going to want to stay subscribed to the channel so you can keep up with key names, situations to follow. We're going to have lots more coming up, recruiting stuff with signing day right around the corner, some more transfer portal stuff. But real quick, I want to get you guys' thoughts. Would you prefer Cam Ward or DJU as quarterback for Florida State next season? Let me know down in the comments below. Again, like, subscribe, and let's talk Noles.